I pushed a button and elected him to office, and he pushed a button and dropped a bomb. You pushed a button and can watch it on the television. Those motherfuckers didn't last too long. I'm sick of hearing about the hairs and the...
Station identification. I am Adam.
MC Graham.
I'm King Kobe.
We are the new low.
New show.
Especially me.
Especially Kobe, that's right.
So, what's on your mind today, folks?
Brains behind it all, Kobe. The new low news show.
What's on my mind?
Yeah. When I came in today, you looked like you were very engrossed in some very theoretical, sort of technical reading, and I was kind of curious what that was.
Yeah, I was reading the Illuminati Tumblr.
Nice.
And is this literally called the Illuminati.tumblr.com?
I don't know, but it was a list of allegedly how different celebrities have gotten famous by Illuminati blood sacrifices. Now, if you don't know what this is a relative or a friend of theirs may have died under mysterious circumstances, maybe a car crash, maybe natural causes, maybe they were shot in a Detroit nightclub or something.
Accidental overdose.
Yeah, and conspiracy theorists go on to say that this was an Illuminati blood sacrifice so that they could gain fame and notoriety.
Did it ever, I guess, occur to them that maybe people know people that die because this is that's what happens to humans? We're built not to last, but just to kind of persist for a little while.
No.
You have to look into the numerology behind it too.
Okay. That is kind of what piqued my interest the most when I was looking over your shoulder. It seemed like there was a lot of talk about dates and ages and stuff like that. So how does that work exactly?
Ryan Dunn.
Okay.
Died when he was 28. That's an Illuminati number, right there.
Well,
that's what you got yourself there, buddy. Illuminati.
So how do you pick 28 as an Illuminati number and not 26 or 25.5 or?
That's a fine question right there.
But you can't ask that question.
Graham, it says it right on the Tumblr what the Illuminati numbers are. I mean,
what are the numbers? Just for future reference.
I believe it was 9, 11, 13.
Okay, so
27.
27.
And 28.
And 28.
Duh.
So why not? Yeah, I guess that's always my thing with with just picking. It always seems like people are just picking these numbers out of a hat. You know what I mean? It was like when the much maligned December 21st, 2012 date came and went. It's like, why the 21st? Why not the 17th? Why not the 25th? Why 2012?
I think it's because these numbers are either divisible by 3 or have a 3 in them.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is.
But then it's like, why pick 3? Why not pick
28's fucking...
No, it all seems very arbitrary. I was reminded, or Graham was reminded, of the movie Pi. It's a high-quality movie, directed by Darren Aronofsky, I think.
Yeah, and one of the characters in there is like this old mathematician who says that when you get a number stuck in your head, you can start noticing it anywhere. It's the
27 steps to the grocery store.
Yeah, $27 in your checking account. You start seeing the show up in dates and ages and stuff like that, and then all the numbers, because when you think about how many numbers a person sees in a given day, all the prices, the dates, and the ages, all the ones that don't fit into their pattern, they just ignore.
Right.
And that's sort of what creates this confirmation bias, and I think that's probably the primary motivation, or one of the motivations behind this sort of, I guess, quote-unquote, numerological approach to the world.
Or...
there really is an Illuminati.
There really is an Illuminati.
Well, and that's the thing. If I was a member of the Illuminati, and I'm not saying that I am, but if I was...
You're not saying that you aren't either, though.
No, I'm not going to say that either. I would try to deliberately fuck with people. So there is that... so even though I think numerology is bullshit, I know people don't, so
Can you give us an example about a certain shooting that transpired with a map that you found?
This was something that took the internet by storm with the Sandy Hook shooting. There was a map from the Batman movie that it was like a prop map, and one of the city locations on there was Sandy Hook. And this is because there's also a Sandy Hook, New Jersey, and that's near New York, where the map was sort of designed from. And also there are tons of Sandy Hooks all over anyway. So Sandy Hook appears on this map, and that freaked a ton of people out. Because there's also like a red X over it, and it says like strike zone like right next to it. So it looks pretty foreboding. And in addition to that, the map had circles and squares on it. And if you counted up all the circles and squares, you got the number of people that were slain in the shooting. And I think if you counted up the squares, you got the number of teachers. And if you counted up the circles, you got the number of students.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fucking crazy. And I found this at like 5 o'clock in the damn morning, you know?
That's when the best theorizing happens.
Yeah, I was just like lying in my bed, like flipping through shit on my phone, and I found this and I pointed it out to some people. Well, I didn't find it. It was pointed out to me, and then I went and pointed this out to other people, and it freaked them the fuck out too. And that's the thing. Like, if you're like, let's say, high or like just not very smart or something like that,
or just not sober.
Yeah, or just in some way impaired, you might really start to buy into this. And I found myself buying into it too, even with ridiculous stuff. Like, why would there be symbolism in a superhero movie about a shooting, you know, that we don't know the motivation for?
Right.
But that didn't stop me from messaging Kobe and one of the listeners of the show at 5:30 in the morning while they were getting ready to go to work, telling them that there was a plot. Well, I don't know if I said plot, but there was events, you know.
Yeah.
There was.
I remember I replied, "Word up."
Yep.
You know,
That's
get some sleep, bud. Have a big glass of water and try again tomorrow. You know.
that's cray, you know.
Speaking of being high and shootings and the Illuminati.
Okay. So the trifecta, you know.
Allegedly popular Cleveland-based rapper Wafeeq Sabir El-Amin, and this is a African-American gentleman who has Islamized his name in accordance to the Nation of Islam, I imagine.
Yeah.
He shot his friend in the head in a recording studio.
Whoa.
As a blood sacrifice. A judge determined him a danger to the public.
Well, yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment.
Hang on, what did he do?
Wafeeq, who was heard shouting, "You are my sacrifice," as he pulled the trigger.
Wait, did he really?
Oh my god. That's so fucked. Can you imagine being the dude in that room? It's like, oh my god, he's gonna shoot me in the fucking head.
Well, can you imagine being like a third party there? Like, you're not the
right?
shooter or the victim, you're just like, whoa.
You are my sacrifice. It's like something out of a Batman movie.
Yeah, and he's probably like smoking the reef or whatever. Like,
say
Here we
no
go.
more.
Yeah.
Investigators recovered more than a pound of marijuana in the Athens Avenue home, according to the search warrant, as well as literature dealing with the Illuminati and its alleged connection to the music industry.
wow.
So, imagine that, you know.
Well, okay, like, whenever situations like this happen, I always like to put myself in the shoes of all the people involved, right? So you're the cops, okay? You show up, and you have some dude who's high as fuck, like, ranting and raving, maybe, I don't know how he was when he was arrested, about, you know, blood sacrifices and secret numerological,
fortune,
and all that stuff. You're in a recording studio, that's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Okay, so then imagine, you know, you're the judge who has to hear this stuff, and then you're also... You know, like I said, the third party, you're the person himself. Like, imagine this dude. He's sitting there in his house, like, just smoking all the time, going on YouTube, watching videos that allege that Jay-Z and Kanye West, Rihanna are all, like, some elite that are picked out to, like, you know, manipulate the masses through occult symbolism in their videos, and you believe this shit. That whole, like you know, you just have taken the whole picture of the situation.
Are we still talking about this guy, or are we talking about Kobe?
Adam, there's a fundamental difference. I don't smoke marijuana.
Yeah, and that's probably the one thing that keeps Kobe from sliding further down that road. Like,
I don't smoke the hashish. Also, another word for assassin. You know, I don't go down that road.
Yeah, so
I say, you know, if I'm getting a little too heated, a little too paranoid, have a few drinks, relax. You know,
cannabis is a hell of a drug, though.
Yeah,
it is. I think it's okay. I don't believe in reefer madness as was propagandized in the early part of last century.
Come on now.
But I do think that it does something more, maybe to people who are already inclined to go a little nuts, inclined to mental illness, to push them in that direction. You know, make them more susceptible to sort of these bullshit superstitious beliefs or paranoid thoughts, that kind of thing.
Well, and maybe the Illuminati knows this, right? So they know that when people are, like, let's say they're smoking weed or they're on Prozac or something, they know that they are susceptible to hypnosis and suggestion. Mm-hmm. So that's when they're like, all right, now that we have a society which is permanently fated in one way or another, we can implant all these images in their head without their consent. That's why I don't watch TV, you know, because I was told growing up correctly that it was a means of brainwashing. That they didn't say
who told you this exactly.
Who from? Well, you know, very. You know, I was.
Well, guy on the TV.
Why do you presume to? I mean, you're sort of guessing at what the Illuminati may know. You know, I just wonder how you know what the Illuminati may know.
Well, you know, like, okay, you know, just like. I'm not saying that this is what I would do, but it's totally what is being done, you know? Does that make sense?
It could be being done.
Right.
Spoken like a true sleeper cell.
Yeah. Well, I don't think sleeper is very fair, you know, because that implies that I don't know what I'm doing. But no, I mean, it's... And you don't even need to be that nefarious to brainwash people. Like, you just need to, like...
Give them what they want.
Right.
I'm just saying, marijuana fucks you up permanently, causes brain damage, and... makes you kill kids.
Right. And so if you are going to do a drug, like, and it also stays in your system for a long time. We were talking about this earlier. Like, if you need to get a drug test for work or something like that,
right.
You know, you smoke a little reef, next thing you know, a month later, you know, you get busted. You might lose your... I mean, I don't know anyone who's ever had to take a drug test for work, but I know employers can make you do that.
Yeah, that's what you agree to.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you could have smoked a month earlier, and it's still in your hair. Like,
yeah.
It's really unfortunate, because, like, you could do much harder... like more paranoia-inducing drugs.
Cocaine, for example. I just looked this up.
You know, the half-life is what, an hour?
Half-life is 1 hour, and what I learned at work about a couple of years ago was that it takes 5 half-life cycles for a drug to be eliminated from the body.
So yeah, 5-6 hours for
5 hours. Like, you could be doing line after line after line of coke, you know, for like a day. 2 days, like, I mean, that shit's already out of your system.
Right. And even though you're probably mentally not there, at
yeah.
least they couldn't find it in your system. So
exactly.
It's sort of absurd.
Well, what we need to do is we need to somehow get
a bucket of cocaine.
A bucket. Is that the way it comes out?
Just give me a pail. I want one of those...
like a bar of cocaine, please.
I want one of those plastic beach buckets filled with coke, and a shovel, and one of those little sand shovels too.
That'd be funny as shit to see.
But what we need to do is we need to be scientists about this, and we need to give people a variety of psychotropic drugs with and without their consent.
Okay.
And then we need to show them videos, various rap videos that contain occult symbolism, and we need to see which drugs increase the belief that the world is being controlled by a sinister cabal of illuminated adepts who have an architectural plan to reform humanity in accordance with, the grand design, which was embedded in the universe from the start, and only the initiated can understand fully.
So you just want to test this theory as opposed to actually instill these beliefs.
Well, what I'm saying is we need to see
what's your motive, Graham?
Well, what's the most effective way to do it? Like, so then we can
dress it up as a study,
right?
Okay.
And then see if, like, people when they smoke marijuana, if they're more likely to buy into this shit, or maybe it's coke, or maybe it's LSD, or maybe it's just fucking blood pressure medicine. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know till you try.
So, what are your guys' thoughts on the Illuminati? Like, does it?
It's real.
Okay. Is it doing anything, or is it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Right now.
Here's the interesting thing. Here's the interesting thing, as far as I see it. I don't think it's real, but the fact that so many people are like isolated on the internet, reading like Tumblr post after Tumblr post of alleged Illuminati blood sacrifices, watching YouTube videos as previously stated, smoking the Mary Jane, it's causing them to act very strangely and do things like shoot their friends. So it's sort of like its own force now. Like, just the fact that people believe this shit makes it real in a sense, even if there is no secret society.
Yeah, it kind of like the idea that there is a secret society takes on a life of its own, regardless of what the facts actually are.
Right.
Which, interestingly enough, was part of the plan. Because why do all the work for yourself when you can get people to think that you're doing the work and then act accordingly? You can cut staff by like 60%. Like, just
So you're
hypothetically,
you're saying the virality of the Illuminati,
Right.
sort of meme,
was planted.
is a way to sort of clean house in the actual Illuminati organization, sort of a cost-cutting measure.
You know, the recession didn't just hit.
Iraq is finally free. After 10 long years, we finally liberated the people of Iraq. And by liberated, I mean killed a lot of them. And some Americans along the way.
Yeah. And wounded. Many more were wounded. Many Iraqis were internally displaced. So that's where you just have to get up and run, because suddenly your neighbors who you've been holding, or who have held grudges against you for God knows how long, are no longer
season.
Yeah. And they might just start taking pot shots at you, so you have to go stay with your relatives or move out of the country or anything like that. It's a very terrible thing to do to someone, all in the name of, I guess, democracy, which is the ability to go into a booth and flip a switch, and just so you can see some guy that you hate give money to his friends and ignore what you have to say.
Well, that wasn't even the original rationale given for the war.
That
was weapons of mass destruction. Colin Powell and Donald Rumsfeld and Bush were quite short. These WMDs were in there.
What you will see is an accumulation of facts and disturbing patterns of behavior. The facts in Iraq's behavior demonstrate that Saddam Hussein and his regime have made no effort to disarm as required by the international community. Indeed, the facts and Iraq's behavior show that Saddam Hussein and his regime are concealing their efforts to produce more weapons of mass destruction.
And then when that rationale faded, it became democracy.
Right.
Then it became the insurgency. It's, it kept shifting, and then ultimately a lot of the anti-Iraq war sentiment led to the election of Barack Obama.
Yeah,
and,
who is, and this is something that we'll give him credit for, he is not anti-war by any stretch of the imagination, but he is smarter than the neocons were.
I have to admit that.
So, and that is probably, for the neoconservatives, it was a toxic mixture of ill will, determination, and absolute fucking stupidity and ignorance, mixed with arrogance. So just that concoction that is probably the worst thing you can find in a person, because not only do they mean you harm, but they will actually figure out ways to do it, and they'll be doing it for the wrong reasons.
And I feel like I have a special time and place in history to talk shit about the Iraq War.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was 14 when 9/11 happened. Still in high school when the invasion of Iraq happened. But then there were people that were older than me who enlisted in the army after 9/11 and then were used in Iraq.
Yeah.
Who have a special, I'm sure they have a special sort of set of feelings toward the Bush administration.
Well, yeah, it's like...
It was almost hard for me in my time and place to believe this was all happening before I could vote. You know? I couldn't vote until the 2008 elections.
Yeah, if I was a superstitious person, I would say that it was almost as if the universe was deliberately keeping us out of any decision-making process so that it could screw... So the whole thing would totally...
Screw our generation.
Yeah, and that even goes domestically with the financial meltdown. That happened like a month before or the 2008 election. So it's like, okay, all of this is on you. And you had no say in it, and so then that's what you kind of deal with the choices that remained open.
But, well, I remember, I was skeptical. I wasn't against the Iraq War immediately, but I was skeptical of the whole thing because I heard a lot of talk about how I was the 9/11 generation, and 9/11 would change everything, and I said, nah, I don't really want things changed very much. I remember thinking, what do you guys have planned? What are you going to change? Why? And, we see the fruits of that right now.
Yeah, well,
But what I'm saying is they did it for my sake, allegedly.
Yeah, in your name.
And I didn't have a say in it.
Yeah.
Didn't want it to happen. But to get back to it, this is something that like inspired the New Show in general, because we were living at a time in 2007, one of the bloodiest years in the Iraq conflict, when a Christian majority had just reelected George W. As well as centrists, just people who thought he looked like a guy, who was shrewd, looked like a guy you could have a beer with.
Yeah, and he was tough on terror. He wasn't he wasn't
a dove like John Kerry, now Secretary of State.
And I was pretty angry. I was more militantly atheistic.
There's no God question, just a God delusion. Just a God delusion.
Because like domestically you had Christians running around trying to teach creationism in schools, or do that whole thing with stem cells and all that stuff, and holding back scientific research, talking about our quote-unquote Judeo-Christian value system, which doesn't exist, and when it is tried, it's terrible. And on top of that, you had Muslim fanatics all over the world that we were having to fight with. So as an atheist, I felt like, man, like who did they end up trapping us with, And sometimes, like some liberals or whatever, they would be like maybe too sympathetic towards like radical Islam or something like that.
Yeah.
Although the radical Muslims did have a point, which is that they didn't want people randomly coming in and shooting at them. But but I just felt like kind of trapped in a sort of a crazy place, and the anger and resentment that created, I think, was one of the big reasons we decided to start recording shit.
To us, the American dream is nothing. To us, the American dream is nothing.
Yeah, and it's kind of like one of the things that it did was it made me rethink just basic moral categories like democracy and good and stuff like that, because they were manipulated so cynically by the media, by politicians, to lead along a lot of people into a disastrous sort of invasion, and that caused me to kind of like, I was reading like various like German nihilists and stuff like that, and they made the point a couple hundred years ago that there are all these like ghosts, spooks out there, like liberalism, humanism, human rights, stuff like that, just even basic stuff like that people can use to gain power over you and to manipulate you. And so you have to kind of just try to keep yourself from getting swept up in that.
Right, because like morally speaking, if you're always trying to do what's good or right or just, or to liberate oppressed groups, you can be easily manipulated by those very concepts.
Yeah.
When you're trying to figure out who's the most righteous or free or whatever.
Yeah, like as if you have a scale and you can go into a country and see like, all right, well, you've committed X number of atrocities, well, you've committed Y number of atrocities, you like freedom of the press, you don't, you like democracy, you don't, like, okay, now we're going to choose who we're going to shower with money and weapons. It's a very pointless way to go about your life. And they're still doing it. And it's albeit a little less haphazardly. They seem to be a little more careful about who they hand guns to. Yeah.
Except for Mexican drug cartels, of course. But as far as overseas things, Obama, like I said, he seems more shrewd, but definitely not against any of the things Bush stood for, or anything like that.
And to go back very broadly to the scope of history, what this does boil down to is how Christianity introduced hypocrisy into imperialism. It used to be, if the three of us got in a boat and paddled over to somewhere else, and got off and took their stuff and attacked them and burned their village down, we wouldn't tell them, hey, we're doing you a huge favor. We would be like, hi, we're here to do bad, And so after enough time, it kind of became, because people were so concerned with looking righteous in their own society, being good Christians and stuff like that, that when they did this imperialist, or when they participated in imperialism, which every culture that has the money and weapons does, if they have the means, they needed to start making up all these ridiculous excuses for it. And one thing I hope, maybe this will never happen, is to reintroduce honesty into maliciousness, because and hopefully intelligence too, so you don't become a neoconservative or some idiot like that. So that way, when you do show up in someone's country to take their stuff and kill them and all those other good necessary things, you can just say, "Hi, I'm a bad man.
Right, I'm doing this for the lulz."
Yeah, and I'm going to kill you. But at least I will give you the dignity of not saying that you owe me some great debt of gratitude once I'm finished."
Yeah, the whole thing makes me sick.
It does.
I kind of sometimes I just want to take to the sea.
Yeah, take to paddle around.
Just charter or steal a boat.
Yeah.
And just kind of sail out.
Yeah.
And just see what kind of riches might be out there,
What kind of foreign lands you can discover
Yeah.
and exploit.
I'm just saying, it might be time for, Renaissance age of piracy.
Yeah. So maybe the Somalis have the right idea, because their societies, like, that's why they take to piracy, because their societies are
I always root for the Somali
Yeah.
pirates, even when the Americans are in danger. Some might think that makes me a traitor, but in the grand scope of history, I'm just playing for my team.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand you're just broke as fuck.
Right.
Your country's just dog shit.
Yeah.
You got to see what's out there, just see what you can find.
Yeah, if your country's split up between Islamic militias and tribal militias, just driving around shooting people who don't give you much money and you don't have a lot of opportunities, you might paddle around and just kind of make your own fortune by attacking merchant vessels over and over again. So hopefully in 100 years, if we're even still invading people, we'll do it for honest reasons, I guess. Maybe that, I think to me, honesty is probably straightforwardness, forthrightness in your motivations. It's a good trait for people to have, and unfortunately at the moment, and especially when we were starting the show, it was very much a rare commodity.
Fuck you, fuck him, and fuck her shit too. Fuck you, fuck him, and fuck her shit too.
All I'm saying is Rand Paul talks.
Fuck that guy.
Just only kidding.
Yes.
Seriously.
No one, for 2016.
Nobody for president.
Yeah.
Nobody will keep their promises. Nobody won't invade foreign lands.
How about like a robot? Actually, funny thing. I read, this is kind of unrelated, but I read something because Fidel Castro allegedly still writes shit for like whatever state-run newspaper they have in Cuba. He wrote an article, allegedly, maybe one of his assistants wrote it, that I don't know how I ran into it, saying that like around the 2012 election, saying that if Americans had a choice between Obama, Romney, and a robot who would keep them out of war in the Middle East, they would vote for the robot, and I thought that was pretty great.
So a robot who will keep us out of war in the Middle East, 2016.
There we go.
Ain't gonna worry about no future generations, and I'm sure somebody gonna figure it out.